presentation by David Hoelscher. He's the marketing director for IoT solutions at Huawei. And the title of his presentation is Open Ecosystems to Build a Better Connected Africa. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you.
There we go. So welcome, and it's really an honor to be here. So I know I'm the last speech before lunch, so we'll make it brisk. And if there's any questions, please just raise your hand, and I'll try and address them. Or if you can wait till after the presentation, we can talk about it then as well, or during lunch. So IoT is one of those huge topics, so we'll never have enough time to say everything. But I wanted to share a little bit about ecosystem, which is really important in IoT. It's especially important in building value chains. Oh, there we go. And really building out the industry. So one thing we can say, and I'm coming from Huawei's global IoT marketing, so I travel a lot in the world. And one thing we can really say is we see that, we've talked a lot about IoT the past few years, but it's really happening. And so this year, now. So what we can see is over 60% of global organizations are taking on IoT projects. They're internalizing IoT. And 24% of IT budgets have IoT as a line item in them. So we're seeing that IT departments are really spending on IoT. And I'm also a member of the Zigbee board, so I can see the device shipments from Zigbee perspective. That's just one part of IoT. And we see there also this exponential curve in device shipment. So we really, really see that this is happening. And then if we take a look at those organizations that have adopted IoT, really there's two kind of secret sauces for IoT. One is to optimize and make things more efficient. And the other is to create new value, something that we couldn't do before. And so we see about 63%, 65%, somewhere in that range, of these organizations are seeing a real change in their business from IoT. So it's really starting to have an impact. And I'll have a few use cases on those in a few slides. But one of the kind of things is, in addition to having these IoT services, it's really important to be cloud-based for IoT platform, because that way we can leverage investments that are done in one place and leverage them across a lot of series of different investments by small enterprises, even by big enterprises. So having this kind of IoT as a service, I think, is a really important enabler for what we're seeing happen here. Now, if we take a look at some of the different vertical industries, I've got 10 listed here. I won't go through all the numbers and all the ones, but some of the ones we can see are very, very ripe, like metering, both electric metering, water metering, and in some countries, gas metering is a huge opportunity. There are literally billions of meters that haven't been connected yet. And once we connect them, we can start to do analytics and do a lot of interesting things to optimize those networks. Example would be peak load shifting. If we can shift the load for electric utility just a little bit, all of a sudden there's no more need to run the peaking power plants, which are usually running a diesel and very, very wasteful and expensive. So we can bring the cost of electricity way down. Anyway, so many, many opportunities. I'll talk maybe about smart cars, another huge opportunity. I think here in Africa is a huge opportunity, both for fleet management and also for usage-based insurance is a very, very interesting area. So anyway, there's many, many of these type of opportunities. And we can see, again, different industries, things like smart parking, connected car, city lighting, smart metering for water, gas. So all these are new growth areas. And here's just a use case. So we've talked a lot about IoT and how great it is, but ultimately at the end of the day, it needs to be able to generate revenue. And so this is just kind of a case study of the revenue that can be generated. This is from an actual deployment we're doing in Australia for water metering. And so you can kind of see on one side, we have the original costs, and on the other side, we have the modified costs. And so you can kind of see that leakage was a big problem in Australia, water leakage. Also, there was a big problem, or not problem, but big cost with the meter reading. And then because it's manual, you do it once a month. You only see the meter once a month. If it's leaking in between, maybe nobody discovers it. Also, there's a potential to get incorrect or even theft in terms of the manual write-down of how much water is used. So basically, these three items, we were able to reduce drastically. Now, the one part where things got more expensive was in the actual terminal cost. So connected IoT water meter, more expensive than the traditional water meter. But that's amortized over 12 years. So the ultimate business case is still a win for the utility, for the water utility company. As a matter of fact, it's such a win that they can share some of the revenue into the carrier. And so in this case, they're able to share about $4.6 per year per meter, which sounds like maybe not a lot, but when you aggregate it over 700,000 meters, which is what they deployed, it's really a significant amount of money. Now, also, this is with what we call narrowband IoT technology, which is deployed by an existing carrier on their existing human network. So all it's doing is enabling these type of machine connections as an overlay for the existing network that's already been deployed. So in terms of the network infrastructure cost, it's very next to zero. Of course, there's some licensing costs, things like that, but the amount of infrastructure that you need to touch is zero. So it's a pre-built network that we're just reusing for this machine-to-machine. So that's a big part of it. Another big part is the low cost of the terminal. So instead of a $30 LTE or 3G modem, we can have a $5 NB-IoT modem, which helps to bring this cost down. But even with that, this is still a significant consideration there. So at the bottom line, by being able to deploy these meters, everybody wins. The end user wins because the price of water goes down. The utility wins because their cost is reduced. The carrier wins, they've got a new revenue stream. Also, this is a built-in 12-year life cycle revenue stream. So this revenue is repeating every 12 years, or for 12 years. And the 700,000 deployed meters, that's 1/12 of the total. So every year there will be a new batch of 700,000 meters for 12 years. So it's a very good, stable, long-term business model. So that's kind of in terms of water. If we take a look at the global numbers, we can see that there's a huge opportunity in water metering. I think here in South Africa, water is a very valuable resource. You know, some places it's less, others more. Definitely here, I think it's valuable. There's also smart gas opportunities, and then smart electricity is another one. And this is just in terms of the carrier providing narrowband IoT service to these metering opportunities. There's also, in terms of electric meter, it's very likely or possible that a large utility company would deploy their own internal network, so, which is still a huge opportunity for IoT in terms of connecting those meters. So this number for electric utility actually would be about 10 times bigger than what I show here. This is just in terms of the carrier providing that connectivity. So that's kind of a real-world business case of how this can be profitable to all parties involved, user, utility, carrier, and Huawei. So another example would be for UBI. And this one, and again, I think is very relative to, related to the South Africa market. So here we can see the growth in terms of number of subscribers for the past few years. It's been pretty much exponential. And then these last few years, we also have a bar showing the cost. So this would be the total revenue, and then this would be the cost that can be shared into a telco that's providing UBI. Now, UBI, I always bring a show and tell device. So UBI is using what's called an OBD, or onboard diagnostics dongle. And that just can plug right into your car. Every car since 1997 has what's called a CAN bus 2 interface on it. And so this just would plug right into that. And then all of a sudden, this has accelerometers, 3 axes. So now all of a sudden it knows how much acceleration is going on in the car. Are you braking too rapidly? It also has all the information coming directly from the car, so it knows when the brake is applied, it knows when the gas is applied, et cetera, et cetera. So all of a sudden, this kind of information can be aggregated. The connectivity is through standard 3G or 4G, and we can also provide inside the car Wi-Fi hotspot with this. So there's a lot of very nice features that the insurance industry can offer to their end users. And all of a sudden, they're able to determine who is a good driver, who is a bad driver. Now it can be pay as you drive. And so if you're a good driver, you get a reduced premium, or you get some types of benefits coming from the insurance company. Maybe it's free gas. Maybe it's, this is a business case development, but the key point is there are benefits that can be accrued to good drivers. And for the really bad drivers, insurance companies can flag them and say, oh, sorry, you're not the type of driver we want to be insuring. So there's all that type of capability within this ability to measure what's going on in the car. So again, there's the 3 accelerometers, there's Wi-Fi hotspot, and then this is connecting in through 3G or 4G networks. And this is very standard. It can be used also for fleet management as well. But we think UBI, usage-based insurance, is really a killer app. And so what we see globally, by 2020, we'll have about 158 million cars connected like this. In the US, for example, AT&T is our probably #1 carrier. They had last year more ads from connected cars than they did from humans. So already IoT, in terms of new ads to their network, just in this one area of IoT, has overtaken the human connection. So I think that's kind of an interesting inflection point in IoT as well. Okay, and then to get back to the business side of this, we can see that just providing connectivity only, like only the 2G, 3G or 4G connection, is a relatively small part of the overall value chain. But by being able to provide a platform and the data analytics, we had a roundtable, the one previous to this last one, talking a lot about data analytics. And so that's where data analytics becomes really, really important and valuable. And then, of course, the device has its value as well. So in terms where a carrier is providing these three parts of the service to an insurance company, they're really generating a very significant revenue from this. Another one maybe worthwhile talking about is smart home. And this is one we see really a big uptake globally as well. In this particular use case, this is from Telefonica and something that Huawei is working with Telefonica in South America. Now, the market there, in a lot of ways, is similar to South Africa in terms of economies of scale and overall GDP, things like that. So here, sorry about that. Here what we're doing is we're providing a hosted service. So we've talked a little bit, I think, about IoT platform in the cloud and public cloud and private cloud. And another way to do it is to let somebody else do most of the infrastructure spend. In this case, it was Huawei. And then we provide that IoT platform as a service to Telefonica for this particular application. And then they're deploying the smart home service in these countries in South America. And so the target goal for that is to have 1 million subscribers over the course of the next 4 years. And again, they're adding revenue. Basically, their play is to provide connectivity to the home, broadband to the home. And then you may have heard of triple play or quadruple play. So they're offering this as a so-called 5-play, where they're adding smart home as a service. And another good thing about this is once you really trust your home to a carrier, you're not going to change. So the churn rate is drastically reduced. So that's even a side benefit. But just in terms of money, they're able to generate about $7.50 per user per year, per month, sorry, with this service. So it's significant. It's about another 25% increase on their fixed broadband. So I think those are just a couple examples of use cases within IoT, but I think we can see that really it's important to go from connection into platform and then extend that into service. So by doing that, really we're able to extend the value chain in IoT. If a carrier in particular is focused mostly here, it's a big business because there are billions of devices to connect, but with a little bit of extra work, there's really a lot of upstream potential there with using the IoT platform. So within Huawei, we really think IoT platforms should have these 3 layers. Connectivity management, and that would be what we call access agnostic. So it means that any type of access network, whether it be fixed, whether it be Zigbee or Z-Wave inside the home, whether it's 2G, 3G, 4G, like in the case of the OBD dongle I showed, or if it's a low-power wide area network in the case of narrowband IoT. These are all very, very applicable connection methods. Then on top of that, we'd have device management. And here again, it's really important once we deploy something like water meter to understand what's going on in the battery of that water meter. If I assign an SLA that they'll change every 12 years, I better be very sure that I'm able to monitor the battery life of all those devices and alarm when conditions exist. And then maybe I have to relax some other of the data model. If a battery is on the edge of coverage area and it's being drained too rapidly, maybe instead of updating 3 times a day, that's the standard, I update once per day or even once every 2 days. But guess what? If I update once every 2 days, it's already 15 times better than sending a guy to collect manually once a month. So it's easy to relax that constraint in terms of something that's more important like battery life. But the key point is you need to have visibility into that. Okay, and then at the application layer, again, this one would be very much more focused on something like UBI, usage-based insurance, where I'm collecting all this data from all the different cars, but then I need to be able to understand the user behavior and then modify billing based on that. So that would be a good example at the application enablement layer, where big data analytics becomes very important. So if we take a look, one of the things in IoT, I think maybe all of you may feel this, it's just, there's so much. There's so many different targets. If you ever take a look at the way fish are, one of their best defenses is to be in a school, because then the predator doesn't know which one to attack. And sometimes I think in IoT, we kind of feel that way. There's just too many targets. And so from Huawei's point of view, we're really focusing on pretty much a few of the different vertical industries, because we think those are the ones, the so-called low-hanging fruit that we can bring to market first and work with our partners to bring to market. So that's definitely one of our strategies. Another strategy is what we call G-local. G is for global, so we want to work with global partners. Like, for example, Software AG that was on the previous panel, or the 2 panels ago. So we're working with them in terms of big data analytics and analytics real-time streaming. So we really want to bring to bear the best international global partners to each of the regions that we're working in. But at the same time, for instance, here in South Africa, agriculture is a very, very important vertical industry. And it's not so far low down on my tree here. It is on there, but it's not the lowest. And so that's where we might want to really focus in South Africa with agriculture partners to bring these kind of solutions to the market. Or another example is geysers. In South Africa, the geysers related to insurance is a big business. An important part of the insurance losses is these geysers blowing up on the rooftop. Guess what? South Africa, as far as I know, is about the only place I've ever seen or heard of geysers. So it's a very unique thing here. But every country has these kind of unique needs. And that's where we're focused very strongly on what we call, I'll skip this slide, on what we call our open labs. And so for these open labs, we're working with regional partners and opening these so that we can bring in the IoT collaboration within the region, within the country. And I'm really pleased to announce that Huawei will be opening an open lab here in South Africa as well. So we really view this as an important market and a very important effort. And so kind of by doing this, we've already developed, let's see, I can't read my numbers here, but over 100 NB-IoT partners. NB-IoT is, again, a low power wide area type technology. So we have focused in mostly the metering area, smart parking area, things like that. But we already have these partners, ecosystem built out. We've got end-to-end solutions ready to go. So I think that's a really key point in building up this NB-IoT ecosystem. In terms of smart home, we've got another 200 partners there. Brands you would have heard of, like Philips, maybe some that you haven't, but they're famous in smart home, like Aeon Labs or Fibaro. So we're bringing kind of the global partners, best of breed, into this kind of ecosystem. And then in terms of connected car, or IOV, Internet of Vehicle, so that one we've got over 20 partners. And again, we just signed last week in CeBIT with Germany a partnership agreement with Meta Systems, which is a very important and leading partner in that area. So that's kind of the idea. And developer community is another really important part. So it's one thing to say you're open, but you have to prove it. And part of the proof is by having open APIs that you can share with your development community. So for us, we've got over 170 of these APIs. And I'd like to welcome anybody here that's interested can log on to our development page. And all you have to do is just register. And then that's all free and open information. And so I guess this kind of repeats what I just said, and I know lunch is coming, so I won't repeat it. But key point, you can still just take a look at some of the icons here, and I think you'll see companies that you're familiar with in terms of IoT or in terms of vertical industries. And this is kind of our vision, really, simply stated. We think at the end of the day, all the devices will have some type of sensing or intelligence, and all the things will be connected. And once we've connected all those things, that's where the intelligence comes in. So that's going to be the application enablement, big data analytics, this capability to stream the analytics and make real-time decisions on it. And then what's that going to lead to? Intelligent society. So that's going to be in terms of smart metering. We reduce the amount of peaker power plants in a nation, or we reduce the need to build a new nuclear generator. So things like that will lead to an intelligent society. So I think very important points. So that's what I had to say, and I hope everybody has a great lunch, and thank you.